Welcome into episode 122 of the Cards Podcast, live tonight on YouTube. As always, with me, host Stefan Loeffler at Junkwagon Twins. Ben, our trading cards, and I'm Tim Shepler at Big Shep 79. We are a podcast by collectors, hoping to bring you a smart, insightful podcast discussing trading card collecting. We're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific,
10 Central,
on YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope Live. Also on Twitter about the cards. We're available as a podcast everywhere. We're now available on Amazon as a podcast. That just came through.
Nice.
You know, we're super cool. You know, Jeff Bezos and I, we're good buds. Check out the website about the cards.wordpress.com. We have a special guest host tonight, the best Ben on Twitter, Ben Aguirre at Cardboard Icons. What's up, buddy? How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys?
I'm great. I'm loving the hat.
right?
Pretty slick.
You have the appropriate version of that hat.
There we go. Balancing out the bottom.
That's right. We're all going to wear our Ace Giants hats. Hey, real quick, everybody in unison. Happy birthday to Timothy. That was.
There we go. Yes.
That was just for your Aunt Amy.
Yeah. So Ben, I mean, we talked about you last week. You're famous. You're in Beckett again, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You know, that's always nice.
It's always kind of fun to see your name in print. It kind of came out of nowhere, and as far as I know, I think it's the only thing going on right now. So it's cool.
Yeah, very nice. But what else have you been up to since we last spoke?
Oh man, it's been a while. Nothing much. Just kind of enjoying the hobby from a distance, if you will. Not trying to get too wrapped up in all of the ups and downs that we're dealing with these days. Trying to deal with more of the personal experience with my son, really, which is kind of tough at times. But that's kind of where most of my focus is going, and then focusing a lot on Stadium Club stuff, personal player collection.
Nice. Yeah, I saw you. You were you had a special set of Stadium Club that was it like a 95 that I had not seen before.
Yeah, it's actually fairly plentiful. So 94, they have the super team cards, and basically it was a sort of a redemption kind of set. It was supposed to be billed that way, and then the 94 strike happened, and no one won the World Series because there wasn't a World Series. So they rolled over the program to 95, and the Braves won. So the Braves super team card from 94 became a winner for 95, and they had a special set for the 95 World Series, and I think they also did the ALCS as well. I think. It was kind of cool.
I remember those super team cards were awesome. I wish they would bring something like that back.
Yeah, I really like those kind of. They kind of do that now with the home run challenge cards. A little more interactive, but I really like those interactive programs. I like the Upper Deck Crash the Game sets too. Those were fun. Collector's Choice.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
I have a bunch of those from the 95 season. I was super big on the 95 draft class with Kajana and Kerry Collins and all those guys. So that was fun back in the day. So who or what have you been collecting? Like you said, your player collection. It's a little Kershaw, Clemens.
Yeah, Kershaw, Clemens. Finally got into my Carnie Landsberg collection. Landsberg's he's a local guy. I'm here in Santa Clara, Bay Area, and Landsberg went to the same high school I did, obviously like 25 years before I did. But he kind of grew up in this area. He was involved in the Little League here. Took the Little League team here to the World Series. I want to say it's 69. I could have that year wrong, but my son's been playing that same Little League. I played there as well when I was a kid. So it kind of seemed like as I've gotten more into the player collecting in the last couple of years, I've gotten back to kind of the simple version of collecting. He's an easy guy. He doesn't have a ton of stuff, but he does have a couple of obscure issues, a couple of which I picked up through comps. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, I love doing that. Like I've really found like nobody like I feel like with my Garrett Hampson thing, it's just like a personal thing. Like really like. But it's been so much fun to like chase down like some of the parallels and that kind of stuff. It brings back a little of that old excitement of trying to find that card. And then I had somebody help me out with the bubble gun, the bazooka back, Gypsy Queen I couldn't find forever. And he made a trade with somebody and hooked it up. So you have a cool thing called the Wall of Pain. Now it's not from like that, those books, but what is it and how did it start?
So the Wall of Pain, it's the hit by pitch collection. All right, so it's a collection of game-used baseballs. Major League Baseball, they have authenticators at, well, I think they're actually employed by the team, they're by the league. But they authenticate baseballs at a lot of the stadiums. Most of the stadiums, they do the each play that the ball is involved in. Some stadiums don't have enough room for all those authenticators, so they just authenticate them to the play. So I started this hit by pitch collection 3 years ago, 2017. Chris Bryant got hit by a pitch in San Francisco by Matt Moore, and usually I collect the ball from all the games that I go the games that I go to. So I went to the stand and they had this hit by pitch ball, and I didn't even know they authenticated hit by pitches. So I just thought it was kind of cool. I picked that one up, and then it kind of took off from there. Found another one and another one and another one, and I think I'm at 109 now. It's kind of bonkers, but I'm in a couple of game use groups on Facebook, and they've been super helpful. Some really cool pieces.
Yeah, what's really cool is I have one. When we went to my bachelor party, we went to Dodgers Giants. It was Bumgarner versus Kershaw in 2016, and this is the Bumgarner to Charlie Culberson pitch, and he was a Giant at one time, and this was a pitch in the dirt, and it's cool. It just has like the authentication on it, tells you on the bottom, and so it's one of those things. And I also got them a game used Giants and Royals ball from the day my son was born. And it's funny is it's the same day that I had my bachelor party, but 2 years later. So I think it's kind of weird how that stuff happens. But yeah, I didn't know they did that. And so like I have even a game used ball from Gary Hampson's debut. Now he wasn't involved in the play, but the ball was used in the game he debuted in. But it still was cool to pick up and have. So I always think that was really neat. So
yeah,
you've been collecting a lot with your son, and he started to get into it. What's that been like for you guys?
Honestly, it's kind of been a breath of fresh air for me. I've been at this for like 33 years, so it kind of comes and goes. Sometimes the passion's there, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you look at your stuff and say, "What the hell did I get myself into?" Other times you're like, "This kind of saved me," So it kind of comes and goes, and you can walk away from it at times, or you can come back to it. But having him involved, I think, has really kind of given me a new lens to look at everything. For a long time, it was kind of like, all right, well, this is stuff I couldn't, obtain when I was younger. And then I kind of obtained a lot of stuff that I couldn't obtain, and now was all attainable. So having him involved has really kind of reignited some of that passion in terms of, appreciation for sets, for design, just for everything about it, the experience. So much of this is experience driven. We get so hung up on, what are the big hits from my break, and you see guys bust through, 10 blasters in like 3 minutes. Rip, 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 rip. Where's the hit? Where's the hit? Where's the hit? No appreciation for base cars, no appreciation for what it is that we're doing, other than playing a lottery,
Where's my money?
What's that?
Where's my money?
Yeah, pretty much.
My lottery ticket.
I kind of get it, because at some point, I think at some point we all kind of look at base cards and like, okay, I don't need like 64 of these unless it's the 87 McGuire, right? Which, Ben has like 600 of them. So having my kid involved is kind of interesting, because it definitely makes me feel like the stuff I've accumulated, the cards, the baseball memorabilia, there was a time where I wasn't really sure what was going to happen to it, if I died tomorrow, right? Or, somewhere down the road, what's going to happen to this stuff? And you hate to think that way, but you kind of think that way sometimes. And with him naturally kind of falling into it, he's curious what I'm interested in. So he follows in his footsteps, and he gets it. He understands the lingo. I say rookie card, he knows what it means. We say blaster, packs, hobby boxes. We say this. He understands the lingo. So it's kind of like having, a best friend in the house to talk cards with, because honestly, like, there's nobody around here. I actually know who collects cards. There's a lot of closet collectors or folks who are, getting back into it now because, hey, I heard that card sold for $3.9 million. Maybe I've got a couple too. No, you don't. Everything you knew before, it's kind of back, but not really, on an entirely different scale. So it's kind of cool to have him with me and through this journey, and kind of get him kickstarted in his. And if he decides he wants to stop, I'm cool with that. This is his childhood, not mine. I already lived mine. So.
As a natural follow-up, what has he picked up on that he likes that you liked as a kid, whether it be foil or die cut or auto?
Well, when I was a kid, we didn't have those.
Come on,
Right, Steph. We're
You know what I
older,
mean.
Steph.
Bliss, we had gum, we had things.
No, we got that kind of shiny stuff later, but and that was in my early, I guess it was like 10 or 12 when that kind of stuff really took off. So, I'm just kind of screwing with you. But really interesting in that when he kind of got into this about 2 years ago, I tried to really kind of I wouldn't say hammer, but I really tried to introduce him to the stuff. Like I got this wall back here, right? That's all this old stuff, and so I'd go through some players and tell them all about them and their accomplishments. And then we went to a card show together, and he literally had zero interest in anything that wasn't China. And part of me felt like I failed. And at the other point, I'm like, well, he is like he doesn't care about this old brown cardboard. He doesn't care. He likes the shiny shit, So so I'm like, all right, well, if that's what you're into, that's fine. So he started to get into basketball because we live in a Warriors area. And Warriors have been really successful, so he got into basketball cards and he started buying 1819 Prizm basketball before it really took off. So our shop had them for they've had blasters for like $24.95, which is $5 above retail, right? And I was like, oh look, they have these Donruss blasters or Hoos blasters for the same price, but you get like twice or three times as many cards. I was like, no, I want the Prizms. I was like, all right, if that's what you want, if that's what's going to make you happy, go for it. And so he knows what he enjoys. I try to get him, especially now in this card environment. It's really hard for him to walk into a shop and get anything. Usually he leaves just kind of depressed, which is kind of sad. But when I get a chance to buy anything at retail, I'm trying to give him something, a variable or a bunch of different things to try. Shiny, not shiny. So he likes shiny stuff and basketball stuff. I mean, he's a young collector. I get it.
Yeah, you talk about like the crazy prices. Like, what do you believe is behind the rise in these prices in like the last 18 months? I mean, I thought, like also on the show, thought when the pandemic hit, March, April, that we would see a decline in collecting. It's done nothing but except go the opposite way completely. Yeah. I spent a half hour on the phone with one of my high school buddies who just moved out to Vegas, and he's like, hey, do you have time to talk about cards? And I was like, yeah. So we talked, and he's just like, hey, I have no idea. Like, when did this? And this is this. He just found it this week, and he's like, I didn't understand that this collecting was taking off. And he's just like, he's just mesmerized by it all. And and he's asking me about stuff, and I said, hey man, just kind of go buy a little. You like basketball, so go buy some basketball that you can afford. If you like a certain guy, go buy. And we talked. It was fun. But what do you think's behind all of a sudden, like, a blaster that was $20 at retail, maybe you'd see it in the store for $25. Now that blaster is, $200, $300, $400.
Yeah. It's interesting. When the pandemic really hit, like the United States, what was it, March? I don't want to say 16th. Somewhere around there, mid-March. I was also the assumption that all of our values, our collectibles are going to drop because people we were buying toilet paper, so we were clearly making a move toward necessities, if you will. I mean, granted, you could live without toilet paper, but things that were more, reasonable, maybe. So I thought that was all going to kind of, the whole market was going to crash. It did the exact opposite. So we had, The Last Dance. We have, more of the sneakerhead influence. We have more traditional media picking up on things. So it just kind of snowballs. And then, we have the income that usually would be spent doing other things, kind of being repurposed, if you will, for our hobby. And there are a lot of things that could have, created this. Now, where we're at now is kind of crazy because it feels like there's a lot of people buying to resell, and even people buying at that secondary price to, one, resell again, or buying it to create content for their YouTube channels, which becomes a source of revenue later in another way. So there are lots of things. Does it mean that more people are collecting? Collecting is kind of a term that we need to redefine now, right? Because, just because you have a bunch of stuff doesn't mean you collect it. You've amassed it, right? And I think Ben has this discussion every week. So there's just a lot of factors in play. So I don't know where it's going to go. It's kind of scary. I would honestly like to see the retail price get bumped to $30 a blaster, because that might help with some of the guys who are coming in, And again, I know it comes off like I'm a hater, but from a collector standpoint, or a father trying to get their son involved, anyway, if you raise it to $30 a blaster, it kind of gets some of that out of there. It doesn't entirely stop it. I mean, if people are making money, 30, 20 doesn't matter. They're just going to make more money on top of it later. But it kind of weeds out some of that. Maybe I'll buy all of it, or maybe I'll buy 60% of it.
And it sucks now because when you do see it, like you feel like, God, I better grab as much as I can, and then maybe hook up my buddies and let them know, hey, I found stuff. Do you want some? Because I finally found it, and it's even working with the distributor, like things are disappearing. We're going to talk later in the show about Brett Williams and his supply of update coming out. But Ben, sorry, Wilson, you were going to say something?
No, I was just going to say that the simple thought is people are going to open this up and it's going to be a horrible return. So you're just going to try to liquidate it and get out from underneath your buy-in on the secondary market. But the problem is if the four of us each bought at a 2x, so let's say we all bought blasters at $50 a pop, and we opened all of them. If we all end up pricing our stuff at the same price on the secondary, then these cards aren't being liquidated at $2 or $3 a pop. They're being sold at $10 a pop. Yeah. And that now becomes the fluid market. It's no longer an artificial market or the height of the bell curve. It becomes the new norm. And what that's going to do, like you were mentioning with your son, Tony, it starts to depress the lower end of the market, whether that's the kids or people that are on an extreme tight budget. I can't afford it anymore. I'm out. No matter how much of a diehard collector you are, or God forbid you're a kid trying to get into the hobby, if these cards are now $2 cards selling at $10 a pop, we saw that way back in the junk wax era. Everybody was, and at that time we didn't know any better. It was just like, oh, this card's $100 card. We didn't know that there was going to be a time where that $100 card, say an 85 McGuire, an 89 Upper Deck Griffey, all of a sudden can be had for, $6, $15.
Well, guys, I'm in full belief that we're going to get somewhere with these cards because, the biggest example I'm going to show is that Prizm basketball is like the hottest, most fire thing you can find, right? If you find any of it. And every year that they've released this, there's been more and more parallels and more retail or hobby versions with choice and whatever that they've come out with. And so it's allowing them to, when they throw a new parallel in for this exclusive release, they can print more base cards. And, it's a 300 card set and there's 25 of that parallel by the 300 cards. And then they, so now it allows them to bring these more. And I think we're all going to realize one day that there's a lot more Luka Prizm rookie cards than we actually think. And then it's not a $400 or $500 card. It's more of maybe a $50 or $60 card. Or, it becomes a $10 card. And so that's the scary part is, just kind of like
history repeating itself.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I learned something earlier this week from our good friend Topps Living Stat about Topps Now cards. The assumption is if they're going to make all of these parallels, they're going to have to increase the base to create this offsetting demand, right? Or the overall print run is going to be, 10 million and of every card combined. And then, as you go down the trickle effect of base versus that first parallel on down to the one of ones. So with Topps Now, if a card had a print run of 200, this year they had the parallels out of 49. I believe they were blue parallels. So that was not 200 plus 49. That was 200 minus 49. So if you were a bulk buyer and you bought 20 of these, and let's say that Topps sent you 11 of the 49 paralleled, and you pre-sold 10, you now have one that you can't fill. You've got 9 base and 11 blue. So that out of 49 actually came off the overall print run. I was under the assumption you had 200 base, and they created 49 parallel that are going to go randomly to the 200,
in addition to
individual. Correct, right? So what he was saying was, what it did was there's only a handful of bulk buyers now that buy into Topps Now. And a lot of them were scrambling to be able to fill pre-orders because of these parallels and how it went. And obviously, the smaller that print run, the worse it became because 49 was coming off the top. 49 were being made before you got to 50. 50 print run means there's only one in existence that's base. And so I don't know if that's the way it's working across all products, but it wouldn't surprise me. We saw it with Topps Total. Why were people getting the out of 5s and out of 10s so frequently? Because the overall print run was based on to order, on demand, and those had to be made before anything. You had the 1 of 1, so 16 off the top. And so I think that's really what it is. If you have these products like a Panini Prizm that is infamous for having 27, 30 parallels, all of those are being made first and then the base to fill up the overall case run. And we don't know exactly what that is per product, but it does make a lot of these base and then subsequently some of the inserts more scarce. At least that's the theory. I don't know that for sure. Outside of Topps now.
It's nuts. So, Ben, is there one card you're currently chasing now? Like it's on your list, because I know you have like your Hall of Fame guys behind you, which I love, and it inspired me years ago when I was collecting. But is there like one card that's like, it's maybe a little out of the reach right now, but I'm trying to hunt one down?
It's still the 52 Eddie Matthews. I mean, that's kind of been so I've been at this Hall of Fame rookie thing for, well, actually hardcore for like 15 years. But I mean, the 52. So, one of the things I used to do when I was younger was pop up in the Beckett, look at the oldest thing listed, which was like 48, and then you go to 52. Then you go look at the most expensive cards, and one of them was the 52 Eddie Matthews short print rookie card, which is the last card in the set, and which is always damaged and whatnot. So, it's still that card. There have been a couple that have popped up. Sadly, a couple of them auctioned off by some of the bigger auction accounts that have a lot of questionable activity with them. Which I personally experienced, because I'm like, I know I'm reaching here with this value, but I've got it because I'm just transferring funds from ComSync. And I'd still lose. I'm like, so that's still the one. And there's one that I could probably pick up and, fill the hole, but it's not going to feel the same as if I wait for one that really, really fits the right situation. So
right.
That's the card.
There's one on eBay right now for $2,200. Buy it now. Best offer.
Yeah, but it's probably trimmed.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Offer him $100, and when he says no, say, "You said offer my best offer. My best offer was $100. You're obligated contractually to take it."
There's literally one that looks like it's been through the washer, and it's great. It's PSA 1. It's a authentic. It's a 1. It's not authentic. It's a 1. Poor condition. And I've made the offers on that one when I was really kind of like, all right, well, I've accumulated all this. I've sold this small stuff to, put into one card, and there was like no budging off this price. I'm like, well, why is the best offer there? And I know it's kind of a default for some people, but it just didn't make sense. Like, this is stupid.
I don't get that. Like, if I put a card of best offer, I always put it for a few more dollars than I'd actually really take for it. Mm-hmm. And then it gives you some negotiating room. Like, if you're selling a car and you're like, here's my 2010 Honda Civic with 6 million miles on it. I want 10 grand for it. And they come in and say, I'll give you 5. And you go, how about 7,500? They go, no, I'm about 7. You're like, done. And you would have taken 6, like you've got to be smarter than the average bear. And that's why you put, but if you're not going to take a, even an 80% offer or 75% offer for, then why,
as a general rule, 70% is what I estimate. 70% is a fair offer. Doesn't mean you have to take it. Right. But if you're asking $10, a $7 offer is a fair offer.
Yeah.
70 to 100 doesn't mean 65% is not fair. Also, a lot of it depends on the initial valuation. But I whenever I list something on eBay, I put the automatic accept usually at 90% of my ask, and I put I'm willing to listen to anything at 70% above. That's fair.
Yeah. Well, there's different motivations for selling. So anyway, we'll wrap that up.
Yeah. No, let's get into last week's releases. We had Topps Living Week 137. We had a card 356. Nama Garcia, pair of shortstop. Boston Red Sox sold just over 2,000. And then card 357, Marcus Semien, shortstop, Oakland Athletics, sold just over 1,700. Not a bad week. I figured Nomad hit 2K. We also had 2021 Panini Contenders Draft Basketball, 1920 Panini Encased Basketball, and 20 Panini XR Football. Yeah, so not a bad week for Tops Living. This week was interesting. As we hop into hot off the presses, this week's new releases: Tops Living Week 138, card 358. Tyler Glasnow, pitcher, Tampa Bay Rays, and card 359. Corey Seager, World Series MVP shortstop of the Los Angeles Dodgers. So two guys that participated. Good Lord, participated in the World Series and this year, and we're running out the end of the baseball season with those guys. So not a bad. Again, I think Seager does. I think we see a very similar week. Seager's probably close to 2,000. Glasnow's in the 1,500 range probably. But
sure,
look good.
Yeah. We also had 2020 Panini Contenders baseball drop. It drops Friday. It's $120 a box, 6 packs per box, 18 cards per pack. You're going to get 6 autographs, 1 numbered parallel, and 18 purple parallels. The Contenders baseball sets have centered around draft picks and prospects in recent years. This year, they're adding rookies and veterans to the content, being very similar to what they do in football and basketball. That means they're going to have rookie ticket autographs.
Mm-hmm.
They're also going to have prospect tickets and highlight minor league players and draft pick tickets. Obviously, they're going to cover the draft picks from this year's draft. They're also going to do a retro 98 and 99 rookie tickets, and those come from football. So pretty exciting stuff. So this is the first year they're actually kind of mixing all of the available baseball players together. So there is no checklist at this time. So I think it's probably going to be a $300 card checklist. As we said, hey, thanks for Panini getting these checklists out on time, and this releases on Friday, and we don't know who's in the product yet. So fun. 2020 Phoenix Football drops Friday as well, $247 a box. Hey, that's not bad for a football box these days. 12 packs per box, 5 cards per pack. You're going to get 2 autos, 1 min, 9 inserts, 12 parallels, and 12 rookie cards. 200 card base set split evenly with rookies and veterans. This release has a little bit of everything. You're going to have hits, inserts, parallels, chrome elements, and rookie cards. The rookie patch autograph jerseys are numbered out of $2.99 or less. There's 4 different one-of-ones available. The laundry tag brand logo, laundry tag NFL players logo, NFL shield, laundry tag, and a super prime piece. New inserts this year are star signs and rising star signatures. They have En Fuego, which I think was a baseball theme years ago.
I want to say, yeah.
It's coming out, and those are going to be case hits with a fire theme, a die-cut version of the card. It's a die-cut card with bold colors. So there's the Lamar Jackson.
So I will say at least these are rounded edges, so it's not going to be a royal pain in the what to get them in a sleeve.
I remember last week we talked with Dub. 2020 Phoenix has a special factory set that's still available as an exclusive through Fanatics for $100. So you can get the base set sealed up for $100 from Fanatics with some Fanatics special inserts as well. Those are the only 2 products dropping this week. So you can check out Ryan Cracknell's articles on Beckett.com/news for more details on these releases, the checklist, all of that fun jazz. What's brewing next week's releases? Now, this is a busy week, but I have a feeling that not all of this is coming out, but I'm hoping one of these products does. So next week, 1920 Panini Clearly Donruss Basketball. It was supposed to be out this week, got pushed back to next. 2020 Topps Dynasty. 2020 Panini National Treasures Baseball. 2021 Panini Prizm Draft Picks Collegiate Basketball. 2020 Panini Flawless Collegiate Football, and 2020 Topps Update Baseball next week. So I'm interested to see what update's going to look like this year. There's not been any checklist released yet. We're usually, going after the rookies and all the guys that came up throughout the season, but that's not going to happen this year. We're not going to have any All-Stars cards. So it's going to be very interesting to see what is in there. And I'm liking Ben's hat. Thank you, sir. Sharp.
I was saying in the chat room, this fit when I was a kid. My head must have grown more than Barry Bonds.
Well, it kind of looks good with the blue headset.
You like this stuff, Steph? I do. I'm Rod Carew.
Or Joe Mauer, for whatever reason.
I prefer Hall of Famers.
Anybody else excited about update besides me?
Not anymore. I was until we heard that there's going to be. I know we're talking about it here in a little bit, but
shortage.
It's frustrating as a team set collector when you rely on certain people to get the appropriate amount of product that they order. And what's going to be in there?
Yeah, we're going to talk. We'll talk in a sec. We'll see you next week, right? Infield Chat, our Hobby Talk section, part of the show. The 2020 World Series concluded last night. Unfortunately, the Dyers won the World Series for the first time since 1988. Steph was a year old, and they won. So it gets an asterisk because it was 60 games, so it doesn't really count, right? I got to trash talk some of my coworkers today down in LA. They said, "Oh, we're so excited we won a World Series," and I was like, "Just call me when you get 3 in next few years."
But I mean, does it really count if you can't celebrate at home?
Or you celebrate with your buddy that got pulled from the game because he had COVID and he played half the game or 2/3 of the game, and then comes back out and celebrates with you, makes out with his girl.
Of course, they're just the MLB is going to pay for MLB quality testing for everybody that was in the stands, right?
Of course they are.
That's a bad look.
They got so lucky that there was no Game 7 because this was going to be a PR disaster.
Well, that's all anybody talked about today.
Yeah,
it was all over the radio. It was all over. It was just, and of course, it's the dude that looks like he was in Game of Thrones, right? Justin Turner looks like he was like some elfin warrior from anyway. Do we see any bump in Dodger cards with this win? I mean, been cardboard icons here. You collect Kershaw, and you got Betts' first year in LA. Bellinger, Seager wins the MVP. Do we see these guys getting any love?
I was a little concerned with the Kershaw stuff, honestly. I think that there's going to be a little bit of uptick as his legacy is kind of solidified. His postseason performance has been, such a question mark. And then he'd been solid this year. So it kind of rewrites over that. I mean, it's still there. It still exists. It's still part of his legacy. But he's got the ring now. He's not in that class of very good guys who didn't win a championship. He's there. Now, the thing is, he's a pitcher, right? And a lot of this hobby doesn't go that way. They just kind of stay away from him, which is perfectly fine by me because I love pitchers. They're affordable. They are dominators. A lot of times they are. A guy like Kershaw, I'm almost glad that no one's I wouldn't say no one did. His prices haven't jumped as much as I thought they would.
So, question real quick, because some guy on Twitter kind of hopped in because he doesn't understand numbers, and he just looks at raw numbers. I mean, if Kershaw had one postseason start and got hammered, that's not really indicative of a postseason performance, right? Where Kershaw's issues in the postseason is it happened year over year. And the small sample size has gotten much larger to where it's really, you can now analyze it. But my point I had made is, okay, you're not going to have a 180 turn on his postseason legacy, but he had 2 really good starts in this World Series, let alone the postseason at large, but just in the World Series on the biggest stage when we're all looking for something to watch. And now he has the ring. So, knowing what his postseason legacy was prior to this year, it's not flipping 180. I said maybe 90 degrees, right? Now you have, where would you say that his legacy, it has turned? How much has it turned?
I think that I can't really pin it down in terms of degree that you're talking about, right? But we see this with the NFL. With, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier this week. You got guys like Jim Kelly, Dan Marino, great quarterbacks, didn't win a title. They always have that. Peyton Manning had that for most of his career until he finally won the title. And then, it's like, okay, yeah, Peyton Manning had all those kind of not so great playoffs, or there's it just didn't get over the hump. And then when he did, it's not that we completely forgot about it, but it's like, okay, well, he does have the ring, so he's got that. Mm-hmm. So I think people who didn't like Kershaw, and I don't know who didn't like Kershaw, probably their opinion didn't change. But I think that a lot of people who were kind of like, yeah, I kind of like him, but this kind of postseason performance thing is kind of an issue. I think they're probably fine. Like, all right, he's got his ring. None of that. All the old stuff. This is the problem they have with statistics, right? We love baseball because of statistics, not just because of that. But we like it because we like to compare the eras. You can have a good year, you can have a bad year. You can have a good game, a bad game, a good series, a bad series. Like those numbers, they're fun to follow, but really, what have you done for me when it mattered? And he's got a ring now. So,
which is
I don't know that it changes a whole lot for everyone.
It's still subjective, right? Because if we want to talk about the GOAT in basketball, right? Jordan, LeBron, you can argue this way or that way, but isn't it Robert Horry? He's got more rings than both of them, right?
It depends on what you value. What do you value more?
So when you look at that, if you told me you could have Kershaw's career for the for a 15-year window, who the hell wouldn't take that? Okay, he hasn't always performed up to his reputation in the postseason, but you know what? Baseball is not a one-man sport. It's not as dominant. We don't look at it the same way we look at, like you said, the NFL, where it's Brady versus Manning. Where, that's not it's a team sport as well, right? You have offense and defense. These guys don't even play both. A quarterback only plays offense. A running back only plays offense, right? But that quarterback, it's why did Aaron Rodgers only win one? Well, you know what? There's a lot of variables at play. Yeah. The Packers weren't always built the same way. Baseball, you're one part of a sum of 25 or 35 or 45, when you factor in injuries. But, like you said, who doesn't like Kershaw outside of Giants fans and maybe a couple of other
I respect Kershaw
teams in the National League? He's never done anything like LeBron did an hour-long dumb.
Yeah,
I'm taking
Kershaw's
my talents. Kershaw he does his job. He doesn't always do it well, but he's done it really good for a long time.
What the baseball coach in his high school was doing, if he could get him and Matt Stafford, and I don't think Stafford played baseball. Like, why didn't you go out and get just to think that those two guys were together in high school and where they are, and they played Little League together. I mean, think about that. You're facing a Little League team that Kershaw and Matt Stafford. Like, no wonder we lost. So. No, I think he deserves a little bit more love than he gets, and he's a pitcher. I think we've seen Mookie Betts getting some more love because, a couple years ago, it was all we could talk about was, Mookie Betts prices were crazy. They were all over the place. And then he has one bat off season, and the bottom falls out, and it's like, this guy's a legit player. I would say if you take away Mike Trout out of the equation, he doesn't exist in this universe. Mookie Betts is one of the top 5 baseball players we have, all around baseball player.
Okay. And you could argue outside of Yelich. I mean, who are you putting at number 2? I mean, it's got to be a short list of Betts or Yelich, who's actually outperformed Trout the last couple of years. If you look at certain quantitative stats, qualifying stats that we care about. But I mean, if you've got the number 1 overall pick right now and variables like finances don't factor in, you're still probably taking Mike Trout. But isn't Betts number 2 unless you want to go for a pitcher? I mean, and those guys are so volatile year over year, and they only impact, at best a fifth of the games. Betts, he's still 28 years old. What doesn't he do well? The kid can play defense. You saw what he did last night where he didn't steal home, but that's an awful ballsy at third base with less than 2 outs. And a ground ball to first base, and you're going to try to take home, and he did successfully. He's a good-looking cat. He's got marketability. If in LA, I mean, the guy doesn't have anything not going for him.
Well, he signed the deal. He's going to be there for a while, so I think it's going to help him in that way as well. It's not like, he's a free agent this year. He's going to end up playing, for the Rangers next season, right? He's going to be a Dodger. It's going to allow people to start to collect him.
So here's
Aguirre's
with Kershaw finally getting his ring. Key rookie card to pick up.
Update
or update gold.
You know, the update Chrome is the card. It's fucking impossible to find for under $600. I don't have one. So if anyone's got one,
he's a hobby icon. Cut him a deal.
Yeah,
sure we can.
$600, $595. Come on.
Yeah, no, that update, 2018 update was such a weird deal. You know, with I think weren't those in the Heritage was in there. They were like mixed together, and then the Chromes were part of the Heritage, or it was such a weird configuration. 2008, such a weird.
Top's kind of screwed
so,
up.
Yeah. Real quick, 77 Klopp in the chat says that he was a high school coach with Giolito, Max Fried, and Jack Flaherty. That would be a solid rotation for a lot of teams to build upon. That's
right.
Wait, what?
Looks like Matt Chapman
this
and
year.
Arenado.
We're giving you guys. We're just going to give you the W. We're going to go over here. We're going to hit off the T for a little bit. You guys do your thing. I don't want to face that. That's crazy. Ben Aguirre's buddy Mike Oz put this out this week. Let's donate. The fires have ravaged the mountain areas near my home. Lots of people lost everything. Lots of kids lost their baseball card collections. He found out that Fresno Fire Company is gathering baseball cards to give to the kids, and he wanted to help. There was an article in the Fresno Bee. We'll share that link. They said they can drop them off in any Fresno County fire station. And cards donated were cards initially were being mailed to one fire station, and that's it. If you want to hit us up, we'll share that with you. You also can email Seth Brown it's seth.brown@fire.ca.gov. Again, seth.brown@fire.ca.gov to help these kids get some baseball cards. Somebody wrote one of the kids wrote a letter to Buster Posey saying he's probably one of his biggest fans. You and me both, buddy. And he would like to. He lost his favorite card in the Creek fire. So I'm just glad these kids are safe and sad. But that's hard, man. Because I think back about being a kid and you're losing your card collection, and at that point you're doing it for fun, right? You're not you're doing it because you're doing it with your buddies and your family, and to have that loss and you're going through everything because you lost everything, man. Like that stinks. So you can help out. There's a good way to do that, and if you need help. Getting to them, let us know, and we will reach out to you as well. There's going to be a Giannis movie. Giannis. He tweeted out today that Disney is making a movie based on my family's story, and they're searching for actors to play me and my brother, Giannis, in our younger days. No experience necessary. If it helps, you resemble the handsome boys pictured below and have some basketball experience, spread the word. So, guys, get your Giannis cards ready. They are going to explode. They already have it. Well, I mean, now it's just going to be like any green parallel or whatever. It's just going to be anything with it worth 1,000 times what it was worth yesterday.
I'm curious what actually happens to his stuff if he moves on, because he's a free agent, right?
Restricted, I think.
Restricted. I think he's unrestricted after next year.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm curious what happens.
No, I believe the discussing word is Miami or Orlando, and I feel like Orlando is where players when they have their big deal, that's where they just go to fall apart. Grant Hill. I think McGrady had some good years there, but I don't know. So I'd hope he'd stay. Just being Sacramento, being a small market guy, I think the Bucks. Yeah. The East is so soft. The East, and they start. You put some people around them. I think they had a good team this year. I think what happened to them is the layoff hurt because they were on quite a roll. And I think they should have probably been a little better, but.
But outside of maybe going to the Lakers, I mean, where could he potentially go to where his star would shine any brighter than it is? I mean, his star is
City.
Yeah, if the Knicks weren't a joke, right?
Well, no, and the thing is players don't want to go play for the Knicks. I mean, Durant said that, like, nobody wants to go be a Knick. They don't care how much money the Knicks have or that they're in New York City. They're just because of who owns the team. The players get it.
Well, and other than marketing outside of the sport, the NBA is really driven to staying in your own market on your own team. He's going to make more money right where he's at than he would in New York outside of, like when Durant signed with Golden State and they're like, yeah, listen, man, we're right at the street from all those dudes on the internet, right? We're right there. You can have, that was the real selling factor to get him into the Bay Area was that Silicon Valley's up the road and we've got 40 partners that can throw you on anything. That's where you're going to make all your excess money. But Giannis, much like LeBron and other guys, he's got enough of a personality to where they can throw him on anything right now and it's still going to sell because of his name value. The best place for him for his career is right where he's at. He's got one of the best coaches right there in Milwaukee. He's got a rabid fan base that doesn't have a whole bunch. I mean, they got the Brewers there, Packers a little bit further up the road. I don't think he goes anywhere because where is he going to go?
Yeah, no,
his best situation is right where he's at, just like Tim Duncan in San Antonio and Dirk Nowitzki in Dallas for all those years. He can transcend his market.
Unless he wants to come to Sacramento, then I would go pick him up at the airport. Actually, I would walk to Milwaukee from Sacramento, pick him up, carry him on my back to Sacramento, so he would play here. I don't care if he was it was the four of us and Giannis on the team for that first year because that's what we needed to do. That's fine. I'll let him play center. I'll play power forward, and you guys can figure out the other three. But like,
I guarantee you, there's a good chance that you'd be featured in the movie.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, like, so watch for Giannis, and he's collecting his own stuff. And we saw a couple months back, he had some things that never made it out to the public. He took pictures, like, I think sometimes when you're the card companies, they're going to be like, they're going to, on certain stars to keep them happy, they might look the other way on that and chalk it up as, part of the doing business with those guys. So, what's weird is that we never heard a giant outcry about a bunch of people that had Kobe Bryant redemptions because he would do, like, I think with Panini, he would sign like twice a year. Or 3 times a year, something like that. But he would sign a lot all at one time, so he'd always have a lot of redemptions because he had that exclusive deal. But he was still in certain products this year, and he was a redemption. And unfortunately, those are never going to be filled. But we never heard people like complain about that. I just, and Panini never said if they did anything. I just want to know, like, that'd be a very interesting story to hear. What happened with that, what they offer, if they offered any, like, a replacement. Not that you could, God, it would have to be one heck of a replacement, just in general, if even if he was still with us, right, to replace a Kobe autograph.
It might take a bit, but I actually have a case for this. We had a guy message us at work saying that he had a redemption in his inventory that was quote unquote redeemed in 2017 or 16 or something like that. And it was a Kobe something or another auto, something or another. So I passed it to the guy who handles our redemptions for us. And he said, that's just not getting filled. They're out of stock. They have nothing on hand. And I'll reach out to Panini, see what they can offer, tell the guy, hey, this is what I'm doing. It's not going to get filled, unfortunately. The last I checked in on it, the guy was at least understanding that, fortunately, there's only so many signatures that went out, and his was the best he can do is request a replacement. But I'd love to see 2-3 months from now what replacement he does get.
Yeah.
Didn't Panini say they actually had some Kobe stuff, but they held it back and they wanted to talk to Vanessa about it and see if what the family felt about doing, because I don't think they wanted to go against the family's wishes on it.
Yeah,
I think that's what they're doing. I don't know.
I know that they used some of the signatures to redeem some of the higher tier stuff. But I think, as you were saying, that they were holding some stuff back.
No, just one of those things. I think in a year or two, it'd be nice to hear the backstory to that. You know,
Yeah.
one of those collecting things to me. You know, and also too, we're the Woodmany, right? Flying Dutchman at RBI Crew 7 tweeted out, Teddy, who must be one of their customers, just pulled this piece of history from our shop. The triple threads, cut bat, 1 of 1, Honus Wagner. Just saying it isn't going home with Teddy, as he was so awesome to work with me, and now I can cut it off my list. Looks like they bought it. It was a great, it's got a bat and then the Honus autograph. 1 of 1.
The auto was mostly in the window.
Yeah. I mean, it's a big auto, very clean.
Yeah.
What would you do if you pulled an auto like this? Would you do what Teddy did and the shop wanted it and sell it back to him? Would you want to hold on to it if it wasn't like a guy that was like on your team that wasn't, you know, it's like, okay, like this is super cool. Like, hey, this is a Ty Cobb auto, but I'm not I'm like, I can take it or leave a Ty Cobb auto for a pile of money or a pile of boxes, right? What do you do?
Now, not that I'm traditionally a football product opener outside of base Donruss or whatnot. If I were to pull a cut auto for, not Terry Bradshaw, but
Walter Payton,
Drew Pearson, or any of the all-time Cowboys greats, I'd sell it to the shop.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ben.
I actually pulled a Walter Johnson cut auto in 2001.
Son of a gun.
No, I did, and I was in college, and I had like no source of income. So it was out of a UD Hall of Famers, and they had 1 hit per box, I think, or something like that. I pulled the Walter Johnson. So they weren't numbered, but I think that was limited to 5. It was the entire first class of the Hall of Fame, and I sold it, and I regret it every day.
Yeah.
At the time, I mean, it's still. I think the money that I got for it is still the highest that I cut Johnson sold for, because Upper Deck actually had like 110 of them in another set somewhere else. But I think it was 110. But I still regret it because I don't even have any good pictures. I don't have any pictures of it. I have nothing because it was 2001. So it's a different market these days, and also I guess it really depends on what they offer. Sometimes the money's too good.
If it's
just
stupid money, yeah.
It just really depends.
Yeah. I mean, I think we can all agree if you pulled any of the top, say, 10 Hall of Famers, which is debatable, right? I mean, you're going to have a different list, but if we're talking, Ruth, Gehrig, Mantle, obviously Willie Mays is still with us, fortunately, but if you pulled a 1 of 1 auto of Mays, Walter Johnson, Ben, I know you're an Eddie Matthews guy as well. So, we all have our top 10 to 12. Cobb, Wagner would be on there. It would be extremely hard to get rid of that because of how unique that piece is. And every time they make one of these, there's less and less available. There's a finite amount for guys that died in the 40s, 50s, 60s. But there's got to be a number, right?
I'm a pretty big fan of the cut autos, because a lot of those times it was like an obscure piece, like a post, like a letter, or like a random piece of paper that was signed by this guy, and to put it into a card to preserve it, and to add something to it where it can be protected and displayed a little bit better than some awkward piece of cardboard or piece of paper, to me is pretty cool. I would probably, in this case, this isn't, if I pulled the Wagner and somebody was super interested in it, I would listen to any and every offer just to see what I could do. It's funny. It reminds me of, and this is not on the same level whatsoever, but the Super Bowl ticket of Odell Beckham Jr., the 1 of 1 from Contenders, was like the card, right? Everybody was looking for his rookie year. And my shop actually had it. And I got to see the card and hold it. And he got it in a deal with somebody, and he traded like a Neil Armstrong autograph for it. And then he ended up selling it to Mojo, who put it in one of their buyback products that they would do. And then, the guy got it in the product, and I'd held and seen the card, and it was pretty cool to see it go to Mojo for my shop. And then that guy flipped it. And I just think, like, to me, it's, if you have something that's a 1 of 1, you could always sell it and then go buy like the Beckham, you could always go back and buy like the out of 25, right? Still have some money and have that. With a cut, it's a lot different because again, how many of this, and it could be less obscure, a more obscure guy that maybe didn't have as many. How many are actually out there that are legit? So, but that's still the one guy. I mean, of course, Steph is on spot and able to pull up the checklist instantly. We talk about a rare pull. Ben's had that rare pull before. I love it. That's what's so great about this is that everybody has like.
So how much did you sell it for?
A case of Top Ramen.
This was 2005, so 3605. So yeah, I mean it was good money. It's still good money, right?
Yeah.
You can go on the secondary market and go find a Honus Wagner check. I mean that's what it was. It was a cut signature from a check. So in theory, yes, the card's a 1 of 1, but the signature is from the check. So you can really go replace the auto if you really want it.
Well, yeah, and then you have people like our friend. I've thought about this. I've got a cut auto of Sam Cooke, who I'm a big fan of, and I bought it probably. I was married to my first wife, so 16 to 20 years ago. But I've thought about going to our buddy Tanner Jones, who custom makes some of this stuff, and maybe have him put it in just to preserve it outside of having it on a piece of paper that can get lost. Right now it's in a frame with an 8x10, but if the frame breaks, but yeah, I mean, if you can go acquire, it doesn't have to be certified to make it. I mean, yeah, it's cool, but all they did was make it, right? And we saw what happened with the Mr. Rogers, cut auto fiasco. So, if you could get a Walter Johnson, you could recreate it. Probably for considerably less than you got for it.
Yeah.
But
I actually think the full cut signature checks are kind of cool.
Yeah.
But it's also not. I don't collect signature checks, so
because they're like, I bought a it's in the memo. It's like Buick, right? Like I bought a 36 Buick, and the checks for like $850. And you're like, oh wait, what? Yeah. So. Speaking of pulling cards with lots of money, last night or this morning about 3 a.m., my buddy, Rob Kardashian, I guess collects cards, and he was opening a case of 2020 Mosaic Choice Football. And in the case, they were going through, and he had a 2 autograph showing, right? So that's awesome, right? You got a 2 autograph. He's going to get his first start this week. And behind it's a Nebula. And by the way, I just like saying Nebula, the 1 of 1 Nebula, and it's a MVP, and they're talking about, let it be Lamar, let it be Patty Holmes, and no, it's Tom Flippin' Brady, and so it's a great hit. But TMZ's like, it could be worth $250,000, and I'm like, and Chris Harris said maybe in Zimbabwe dollars, I could see this card being worth a couple, 10 grand to the right guy, but not $250,000.
Right.
And is it just because unless it comes with like a date with Kim Kardashian or like you're gonna get to be on the Kardashian TV?
Well, that's like Kardashian pre Kanye West, like 8 years ago. Maybe that would. Right now, I don't know if that doesn't devalue the deal. Like, I'm good.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no way that card is a $250,000 card. Right? It's an MVP insert Nebula. It's like, okay, yeah, Nebulas are cool. It's not like it was the Joe Burrow Nebula, right? At least he's, it's his rookie card, and that's kind of, this is an insert. I don't know.
Yeah, here's the thing, though.
Go ahead.
We're talking about rich folks, right? So you can create an artificial market with that.
I was about to say it. Some dumbass out there is going to be like, my buddy Rob pulled it, and TMZ wrote about it. Here's $250,000. We know better.
Black China's going to get some of that, right? But this is where I think we've gone insane to tag on this at Sports Invest 123. The Herbert 1 of 1 Black was found and sold for $12,500 this last week. I know he's played pretty well, and I think he could have been he could have challenged Kyler Murray for the number 1 pick in 19 coming out of Oregon, but he stayed and went to the 2020 draft and he was the third quarterback taken. But I think he could be like the second best quarterback out of this class this year, maybe the best. He's showed promise. He's only won one game though. It's a terrible photo because the card's all cut off, but I don't see like really you're going to put $12K into this guy right now.
I don't get football. I don't.
I mean, again, it's a quarterback, so I understand.
But if we're looking at, no offense to hockey, but if we're looking at the top three sports, obviously football is the king, and baseball and basketball kind of pick up the scraps, right? When we're talking about just sports, not cards, football is where it's at. Everybody, you know, it's just the way it is. They're so far in front of basketball, which is 2. Baseball is probably a distant third. Probably hockey's right there along with baseball right now. But when we look at cards, it's different. You know, depending on who you ask, would tell you basketball's the best, baseball's the best, right? Football definitely pulls up a distant number 3, and it's obviously top heavy with it just being really the quarterback market, and that's it. It's just I don't get it either. Why you would throw, if you're going to park your money in a card, especially that amount, why would you do it with a football card? I could see doing it with, as we mentioned, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, countless baseball players, whether, you want to do it with Trout or Betts or, a superfractor. I don't get why you would with football in general.
Fan, you could put it in a Brady card, right?
Sure.
Manning, Montana, those guys, Bradshaw even, and put something into that. I just don't. $12K on that to me is just it's an insane price point.
That's the worst of it. Now that you've missed out on it, you want the 1-of-1 black auto.
So look, there was an article I was reading on The Athletic the other day, and they were talking about Sam Darnold, and maybe it's ESPN, and they were talking about whether or not he's going to get traded this offseason, whether or not, if the Jets were going to get Trevor Lawrence, who might take a stab at Darnold, and the Colts were one of them, Tim, that might throw a third-round pick. We saw what Josh Rosen got 1 calendar year later, and where he's at now 2 calendar years later after the draft, right? When we look at it, and they had this list of first-round quarterbacks over the last decade, and the Christian Ponders of the world, the Jake Lockers of the world, and it's just like these guys would have been worth a lot of money, were worth a lot of money in the hobby.
Marcus Mariota,
in that,
Winston.
Yeah. I mean, these guys were, in that window, that 12-month window, these were the guys, right? The 2012 class, look at that. That's right about the time I was getting in. I was buying up football cards back then, and it was
Luck and Griffin.
Andrew Luck,
Mm-hmm.
and it was Griffin. Trent Richardson was there, but you also had Nick Foles, who was also one of the bigger names because he was a quarterback. And now look, let's speed up 8 years. Foles has been on 4 teams? Yeah, he won a Super Bowl, but okay, whatever. Luck's out of the league by his own, choice. Griffin's still there, but he hasn't done anything since 2012. I mean, if you analyze just the last decade of first-round quarterbacks, is that a list you want to be on? And you want to be in that financially is really where it comes down to.
You got to make sure it's maybe the right guy. I mean,
okay, but how many guys are the right guys?
No,
just
yeah, I know.
Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, maybe.
Mitch Trubisky.
Hell yeah! Look at the Bears. I mean, they're hella into his ass.
All these high-dollar sales, I really do take with a grain of salt. And this kind of thinking for me goes back to probably 2018 when we had Ohtani stuff. Just kind of go through, right? I am a firm believer that people who are buying any of this stuff at high dollar, they're not collectors. They're not. They're essentially businessmen. You get a guy like Brian Gray, and and this is not he's saying anything negative, but Brian Gray runs a business. Okay, you see a 1-of-1 of the top rookie for $12,000. Okay, that's a business acquisition. You take that and you put that into a repack product, advertising it as the top hit, and then you fill it with a bunch of other stuff. You're going to make your money back. So while we're saying that card's worth 12 grand, it was worth 12 grand in that business transaction. But what collectors actually got 12 grand to throw at that card? So all of these prices that we see, they catch, they get the click, they're clickbait, they get the media talking, they get us talking, right, in the hobby. But we also have to understand these are all individual transactions. We're not talking about an 89 Upper Deck Griffey that's going to fluctuate from 40 to 60 bucks raw. We're talking about a 1 of 1 or a 1 of 5 or whatever, very rare, and in high demand because there are several reasons you could want to purchase this card. Just having it makes you someone to talk to in a business transaction. There are lots of reasons why you might want to pay that money. It might not be for a collector.
The money just is not just the price point is just nuts on who it is, and
it depends on your socioeconomic standing, right? What do you make a year? Because I've mentioned this on the show multiple times, right? If you make $50,000 a year, you buy a $20,000 car. It's 40% of your gross income per year.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't buy a $100,000 car, but if you make $500,000 a year, that's only 20%. So the ratio is actually more favorable.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it just depends. And a lot of these cards, especially back since you mentioned Ohtani, Ben, a lot of those cards, we know a lot of those cards ended up in Japan. Finances are different there. Those probably went into private collections.
Yep.
We're not talking about the four of us in
right.
our dollars and cents in our checkbooks. The people that are throwing this, I mean, like, seriously, right now, if you had $20 million in the bank and you had a job where you make decent bonuses, $1 million, $2 million a year, and one of these cards came up at 10 grand, a superfractor of your guy, right?
Yep.
A Kershaw, a Brett,
yep.
a Mauer, a McGuire, whoever your guy is, you're telling me 10 grand if you got 20 million in the bank. What the hell is the difference of one of us dropping $100 bill?
Yeah,
well, see, this is the thing, understand. So when you have a 1 of 1 of anyone, right? And let's say you pull a 1 of 1 plate of George Brett or I don't know, Alex Gordon or whoever, you throw it on eBay for $499, 99% of the people are going to laugh at you. But what if someone has the other 3 plates? You know what I mean? And they're like, oh man, I got to have that 4th. Or Brett Gardner, right? Brett Gardner is a good player, but shit, have you seen his rookie cards? They're not cheap. There's motivation, different motivation for things. So, we laugh at prices, and yes, $12,000 is a shit ton of money for, a 1 of 1 that's not signed. It's not even going to be the top brand in a week. You know what I mean? It changes every damn week. So it's easy pickings. It's good talk, but there's also a lot of motivation for a lot of these prices. And that's why we have to take a lot of this with a grain of salt, even when we value our own cards. If we see a Herbert Mosaic 1 of 1 at $12,000, that doesn't mean that you're 1 of 1 from, I don't know, Phoenix or whatever the hell brands came out last week or next week. It's not exactly a scale. It varies so much.
It's not linear. Yeah. People ask that all the time
like Prizm.
People ask that all the time on Facebook is how do you price a 1 of 1? It's like, it's really easy when you really know how to break it down and to find comps that are reasonable enough to where you can at least get a window. And people always go back to supply and demand. It's like, well, something's worth whatever somebody's willing to pay for it. It's like, yes, but there are 1,000 variables underneath that umbrella. The bottle of water when you're thirsty is worth more than when you're not thirsty. When you need, if it's got the cure for cancer, all of a sudden that variable changes what you're willing to pay for it. So as you said, if you have 3/4 of the printing plates, you're willing to pay more for the 4th, even if the valuation is absurd. Mm-hmm. It's more valuable to you than it is to the next person. Mm-hmm. But a lot of it also comes down to, sales 101. You don't sell out of your own pocketbook because you don't know what somebody else has to spend. And yeah, we can laugh at it, and it's fun to laugh at it. Look at my timeline. I make fun of people all the time and poke fun and understand it's understand a lot of it's just it's either to create debate and to challenge ourselves, or it's for entertainment. When we laugh at somebody, it's not meant to be. It's kind of like a elbowing, right? It's like, come on, really? I went toe to toe with a guy this morning that was asking $15 for $2 worth of Ricky Henderson's. And people are like, are you really making a big deal over $15? It's like, dude, it's a 4.5x multiplier against what I can go buy them on Sport Lots for. It's fun. It wasn't, and a lot of people were taking it serious. It's like it's just meant. It's our hobby. We're passionate about it, and that's where a lot of this comes from. It's like, are you stupid? No, I'm not really calling you stupid. I'm just saying that's insane. I wouldn't pay that much for it, but it's not my money.
What would you pay for a Project 2020 was autographed by the subject? So they actually do exist. Our buddy CRT Sports Cards, Chris Torres, tweeted out a picture. They do exist. This is not mine, but it was sent to me on Facebook. The standard card order for this buyer has already been received from Top, so it appears that these are going out as extra orders. It was a Frank Thomas in that's a what is that Keith Shore?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No name with the Bo Jackson, signed by Frank. So that's out there. So that'd be neat to get an extra order autograph, but we haven't seen the supposedly Trout had them. But I don't know if we talked about that previous show that those hadn't really come out or been seen. But who knows? They could be in a pile in someone's room that's stocked up on Project 2020 when it was going good. Which, by the way, I was at the shop today. I could have my choice of probably 20 to 30 different Project 2020 cards for $10 or less, and stacks of them. So God knows what the shop actually did pay for them if he's selling them for $5 or $10. So
watch my dad. They're fun.
My dad and I were talking about this the other day, and I said, a fun project, if you had a few minutes, because that's all it would take, is take a $100 bill, a phantom $100 bill, and fill up your eBay cart with as many Project 2020 cards as you can. Buy it now, just to see how many you could come up with, right? Because you'd get 10. But could you get 12? Could you squeeze 13 in there? Again, you don't care about what player, what artist. You're just trying to get how many cheap cards could you get? And you just even say it, shipped, no tax yet, right? So you could have $100 plus whatever the tax is, so $108. How many could you get? Could you get 13? Because it'd be kind of fun to see how many of these, because we know what the retail value was.
Mm-hmm.
At $17.50 each. Let's assume that you bought, a 2 for a day. I bet you could get 12 or 13, and that's just interesting. And then it'll be also kind of cool to see which artists and which cards. You'd get the Vitus, Nolan Ryan, and the Keith Shore Griffey. Those two are a given. But
what's fun to me in this realm is watching Comsi on them, because the prices keep dropping, right? And nobody's buying. Well, I wouldn't say I'm buying, because I'm buying a couple of them actually. But the prices keep coming down, and the more they come down, the more attractive all of them become. Even if I already have 4 or 5 of them,
right.
And there's built-in value there in the cases.
Mm-hmm.
With my LCS has one touches for like $3 a piece now. So if you consider that to be a cost, and even if you hate the Griffey with a passion, the Griffey Shore with a passion, it might take you 3 months to get the Griffey guy. We know it's working right now. But if you look at that as some sort of value, and you can use those cases for your own collection, they're worth buying. And
Mm-hmm.
I just think they're fun to have, honestly, at that price point. Now, I do question my daily purchases these days. Yeah.
my question is the cases are all over the place, though, because I got my latest Brett, and the case was enormous. Like, it was probably a 180 stock case.
Okay.
And like it's so much big. At least it was the same height, because I have 2 Bretts that are shorter than the rest. And so I talked to somebody on Twitter, and they said what they did is, because they moved into the black mag touches, that they actually took a hair dryer and they could take the sticker off. So yeah, I'm gonna have to buy. I'm gonna have to put them into to mag some other different mag touches with the stickers, so they're all uniformed in my Ultra Pro cases. And but no, man, seriously, because I went to my distributor up the street the other day, and I got a handful of some one touches, and it was like scarce, and they were like, "Man, you're lucky you came in today, because these won't be here." And this was on a Friday, so these won't be here by Monday afternoon. So yeah, because they were just having a hard time getting stuff, and so.
So speaking of getting here, and I know it's not in the show notes, but I just had to share this. I was doing a rundown of my collection, and last week or the week prior, I shared that I picked up my Malorado, and I have it here. since it was a local pickup, but I was waiting for 2 to come through the mail. The first being a nice and shiny Honda Montana on it. Now, the guy didn't know it was numbered 50 of 50. Where that is. Sorry. Wrong end. But I saw the auto, and I was looking at a cheaper Topps one. But then I saw the relic patch on it, and I couldn't pass it up for like $6-8 more. But then I went about looking again, and outside of a Tony Oliva and a Brad Radke $5 pickups, I was kind of shooting for a slightly bigger purchase, and I found this 42 of 100. It's a Playoff Absolute Memorabilia 2005.
Oh yeah,
Rod Carew. But look at that patch.
Those nice Band-Aid stickers.
With the sweet signature.
No, I gotta say, is stickers? Nobody's a fan of sticker autographs, but the stickers have come a long way in the last 10 years.
I mean, look at that compared to, even something released 5 years ago. This being 2005 product, but gorgeous card, and I actually got to pick out which of the 3 the guy had that I'd wanted. But he sent me a nice little addendum saying, "Hey, yeah, I pulled the one that you requested," but also, and with all of the portion, yes, I hope for the best for Rod Carew and his heart. 2020 has been so very cool, taking our Hall of Fame heroes, and it can't be more true. But I love that someone thought, in addition to, hey, this guy's a collector, obviously, let me add that additional step. And it's nice to see. Yeah. Not everything's negative, and people actually genuinely care out there.
That's very cool. I love that when you get a cool note from somebody. And then I always hit up people if they buy from me, and there was a guy that bought from me that was from Wichita, and he lived legitimately around the corner from my uncle. And so I messaged him and said, "Hey, I grew up in Wichita, and my uncle lived right around this corner from you. I know where you." It sounded. I said, "I don't want to be creepy, but I know the street you live on because my uncle lives around the corner." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I know him." And I was like, "Wait, what?"
That's awesome.
So I was like, "Well, that's funny, dude." And so then I saw he was buying some stuff, and so I threw in a few extra cards in there just because I was like, that, hey, and I wrote him a note. I was like, "Hey, that's a cool story. Have fun." So I love, that stuff in the hobby, or I get stuff like that. I got a surprise mail day from, one a buddy on Twitter that, hangs out in the show and stuff. So this week, and there was no name on it, and we figured out who it was, and he wouldn't confirm or deny that the box came from him, but it's a stack of Royals cards. It's so awesome.
And just the state that it came from, I knew that it had to either be one person or the other. And I'd asked the guy that's in our other group DM, and he said it's not him. He doesn't live in that part of the state. But because I also got a surprise random Twins pack, which is what I was sleeping earlier on in the episode, part of anyway. I did a search on the street address, and some of those white pages or whatnots will say, "Well, previously listed at this address," and they're like, "Oh, okay, I see. I know exactly where it came from."
Yeah.
One of those names is usually.
Since you did the web stalker thing, good job.
I
Googled your address. I know exactly what color your house is.
He gave me a love note on mine, so I knew exactly who it was from, because he's literally the only person that says what that love note was. No matter what I say on Twitter or the show, he always tells me I have weak takes. So he said, yeah, but he's the only one that calls me on it. So he's like, Ben Wilson, care of House of Bad Takes. And I'm like, this had to come from Serbia Sports Cards. That's it. And we're trying to get him on the show and he's a Blake Snell doppelganger for what it's worth. I'm like, there's no way. I've never seen those two dudes in the same room at the same time.
That's like, I have a buddy that looks just like Tony Cingrani, like dead on. It's creepy. I even sent a picture to him, and then he sent it to his family, and they're like, "When did you start playing?" it was from last year. He goes, when did you start playing for the Dodgers? You know,
and who knew that Mark Cuban and Cherokee Parks, are like twin brothers.
Yeah.
I saw that card several years ago. I was like, holy shit, that does look like Mark Cuban.
God, Cherokee Park, what a name.
Well, who's the guy that Ben looked like?
Kevin Mensch.
Kevin Mensch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Topps update cases. So Brent Becca tweeted out today, I was just told my Topps update case order was cut by 80%. I will have the least amount of cases of Topps top series since 2005. The market is just immense. This will change a lot of what I'll be doing, and if it going in with it and going forward, as my heritage high was also greatly cut. I realized many can't get quantity of cases these days, and the prices are crazy high. So I'm happy I still get some, for sure, no doubt. Yet it stings as this is my only source of income full time with an employee. So I'm venting a little. I hope that is understandable. And of all the years too, there won't be many rookies. None of this year's new hot ones. More of the set with recaps of past year's events, etc. Although it should have the best rookie debut ever, and they may do better than usual without as many rookie cards to chase and with debut cards demand up. So we'll see what it is. I mean, 80%. I mean, he was opening what, like 80 to 100 cases.
Yeah.
So that's a hell of a hit. Like, where did they go? Because we know that they're printing Topps. Because with Topps, what you do is when you pre-order the stuff from the distributor or from Topps directly, you do it months and months in advance. It's kind of like print to demand. So they have an idea of what people are looking for and what they're willing to print or to print to. And so if the demand's higher, then the print run's going to try to meet that. And the fact that these were submitted months ago, I can actually look and see when we had to have them submitted by. But that to me, guys, like that's astonishing, right?
Well, so for comparison's sake, 5-10 years ago, I was talking to one of the LCSs here, and they were saying that essentially for all of the summer stuff, they had to have their orders in December, January, February, or they weren't getting anything.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about this last week on the show, or maybe the week before, about LCSs and hey, if I had an investor, I'd open up a shop. It's like, getting a small business loan, finding a silent partner to drop $100,000 in your lap to open up a shop and use the shop itself and inventory as collateral. That's not the issue. This is the issue. Brent Williams has been doing this for 20 years, and he's been buying 100 cases of flagship year over year, all three releases. Not to mention all of the other stuff that he buys, when it comes to Ginter and Heritage.
Yeah.
And then he can't get his fulfilled. So do you think that the Ben, Tim, Steph, and Ben LCS that just opened up yesterday, what do you think we're going to get?
Well, so I look back. We had to have the orders in by June 15th by distributor. And I don't even think baseball had started by then.
No, it started in July around the 24th or something.
Yeah, so that's when you had them in for a November release. And just to give you an idea, Series 1 pre-orders had to be in by September 2nd. And that's not slated to come out until February 10th.
So they've even pushed back in the 5-10 years since I last talked to them.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like legit. Like right now, like we're Bowman that doesn't come out until April. You had to have that in October 5th.
So you're looking
for 21 Bowman.
4-month lead time.
What's up?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was
just... Is demand for update this year actually higher or not? Because I know we're saying that Brent got his allocation cut by 80%, but where is the market on update? Because we know there's not going to be any new rookie. We already know that. Mm-hmm. So his demand, he may have requested a certain number, but where's the rest of the market on this? We are talking about Topps update baseball, right? It's not shiny, it's not flashy. There's no new rookies in it. We have no All-Star game cards in it. We might have some guys who got traded. We'll probably have the rookies who traded uniforms, so quasi new rookie cards. They're going to have the logos on them anyway. But where was the overall demand on this? Was it actually higher or is it lower? Because that's a hell of a number to be taking a cut on. And who's actually buying the stuff? I mean, is there anything to hoard in this? I mean, because you know how the market is these days. So I don't know. For me, I understand what you're saying. Tim, you would know because you do the pre-sale stuff. I get it. But to me, it feels like demand on that product would have been down anyway because we may not even have the damn product because we didn't know we were going to have a baseball season. So maybe the deadline hit and there was not that many that were demanding it. So maybe demand was
more so, thinking to the future here, I wonder how many people actually revere it as much as, say, 17-18 update or 2011 is the obvious one to point to. But and then more so, you kind of got the dual parallel of 51 tops versus 51 Bowman versus 52 tops. Not that there's anyone huge that would coming out of the rookie class that you're pushing into Series 1 next year, but it's going to be interesting in 5-10 years to see what, if anything, is in this set because I think it's mostly just going to be traded guys.
Yeah,
it's got to be the perceived value of the unknown, right? 17 was this, 18 was this, 19 was this. We can look back and say, well, 2011 was this. This is the product to have, but where people, especially 4 months in advance, didn't extrapolate it out and realize, okay, what is update? Update is all of your traded players, it's your all-star game stuff, and it's your rookie call-ups that come up and make an impact, early on in the season to qualify. And this year you're not getting any of that. And I think for some people it might be a blessing in disguise that you didn't get what you wanted, because if you're not in a position to where you can sell through it, Brent has built-in customers where he's already going to have master sets sold, master team sets sold in my case, and other people's
But really,
cases.
is he though? I mean, if you're getting cut that bad, how hard is it going to be to build that master set?
That's what I'm saying. But if he got 100% of his allocation, he would still have the sell-through on most of it because he would still get the hits and people would buy that stuff. But he'd be able to sell all of his parallel sets and all this other stuff. So, but for the Joe Schmo who's like, oh, let me grab a couple of cases because last year had such and such and the year before had this guy. Okay, well, for him, if he gets none of that, he might.
Well, you should have looked into it before you're buying it. You kind of know what's going on in there.
But that's the thing is how many people didn't know and just got on that gravy train and are probably going to be blessed to have gotten cut.
Well, I have a case coming from the card shop, because I wasn't able to get it through my distributor, but I got a very, very solid price because when I found out I wasn't getting it back in June, I reached out to my card shop and he hooked it up. So it's just disappointing because that somebody that's supported this for so long, and we had him on the show. He was saying it's really hard for him to get product now because he's not even in the top 50 of spins. And to get into that list, you're spending over $1 million or to $2 million a year. And that's a ton of cheddar to put out on some cards, and yeah, I don't know. So
I would like to see whether this year turns the tide on the rookie debut cards being looked down upon. Sure, it may be it's what everyone goes for, and this kind of a bad example to point to, but everyone casts off the rookie debut as just another base card almost. And at least personally, I think this is a better looking card than his actual rookie Chrome card.
So with this year's update, though, I mean, who aside from Luis Robert is actually going to have a debut this year? Because all those guys debuted the year before. I guess there's probably a couple, guys who showed up in Series 2 that we're not super familiar with. But
all of Benzays.
No, they were all last year, though. I mean, they all played in 19. So
but didn't Judge have an 18 update or 17 update with his debut?
He had a 17.
He debuted in 16 because he was in Series 1.
Fair point. Yeah, I guess you're right. Anything with it?
I don't know. We'll see. There's still no checklist, so I think this week when it comes out, or next week when it comes out, hopefully we'll have it before Friday, and we can talk. Before Wednesday, so we can talk about it on the show. Another product that's coming out is there's some new golf coming out. So Brad Gelly tweets out new golf trading cards are coming. Upper Deck Sports is planning 3 new releases in 2021. This is awesome news. The company is working on multiple golf trading releases. Upper Decks Chris Carlin told WXYZ there will be 3 arriving in 2021, starting with Artifacts Golf. Tiger Woods will have a lot of company, and the new releases. Upper Deck is bringing some big names, including Arnold Palmer, Annika Sorensen, Byram Shambo, Colin McCowai, Justin Thomas, Matthew Wolf, Danielle Kang, and Lexi Thompson. Collectors have been begging us to bring golf cards back for years. Upper Deck Sports brand manager Paul Zickler said in a release, "Professional golf is such a great place right now, with new young stars emerging on the PGA Tour and players challenging long-standing records almost daily. It seems to be the perfect time to introduce a new golf product to fans around the world." So,
well, and this is something pointed out that it's kind of like basketball in the 70s, 80s, and maybe not so much for baseball because it has that long history of having sets. So maybe in the 20s, 30s. Where not every single year actually has a release, especially nowadays when anything can get printed. I mean, your last golf release was in 2018, 16, 15, a good couple year run there. But then even then, it's from 2012 to 2005. So It's nice to see Upper Deck bring back at least a set for the few people that want to collect golf. Or bringing more people in. Because I know a heavy collector of golf in the local area here, and I'm sure he'll be buying a box or 10 of this product to try to get the major autos. And at least from Upper Deck's point of view, when you have Tiger Woods signed to that exclusive deal, outside of Goudey, or not Goudey,
Goodwin.
Goodwin, thank you. What else are you? What else are you paying him for?
Yeah,
I mean, authentic memorabilia, but.
Well, especially with the market the way it is right now. I mean, golf is generally followed. Right? I mean, people have money when they're playing golf, so it would make sense, especially in this market, the way that trading cards as a whole have seen such an uptick in interest that they go back to that, and especially when you have Tiger Woods as an exclusive, you got to use that.
Brandon,
and I know they use it on the man, like you said, but, with cards and whatnot. I think it's great. I'm not a golf guy. I still want to Tiger Woods on it,
Right.
So
yeah,
I get it. That's cool.
Yeah. So we asked this question last week on Twitter. We just didn't get. We had 2 questions that we asked last week on Twitter. We just didn't get to last week on the show. The first is, if you could change one thing about the hobby, what would it be and why? I'm going to go through a few of these and then we can kind of chat about it. Giants fan 209 said all game use being certified from the exact games the piece of memorabilia was used in. So letting you know, like, hey, it was used in a game on this date.
Is it what museum collection that does that?
I believe so. Saquon and Baquan said I would change the way Topps handles customer satisfaction issues. They make it so hard to speak to someone other than a call center person, and they can't usually fix the problem. This is something that is starting to sway me away from Topps products, so collecting baseball altogether. Johnny75, eliminate exclusive license, especially with Topps. Their designs have gotten stagnant. A little competition might get them to improve their innovation too. Card Aristocrats, pricing for sealed product is going back in time 2 years. Haven't bought anything from DA Cardware to blowout cards in over a year because the juice isn't worth the squeeze. 30 a week habit. I would ask everyone to focus on the positive aspects and not worry so much about the negative that is out of their control. And T Wood 1219, the value of a PSA base card, a PSA 10 base card, a $6 base card that should not be $80 just because it's a PSA 10. Only way people want cards now is if it's in perfect condition. That way they can grade and flip. People need to learn to love the card, not the condition, in my opinion. I'm a believer in that. I'm not a big believer in, I'm not a huge fan of graded cards. I do have some. And, it's that thing. It's like, sell 10s, buy 9s, right? Be happy with, and that's the thing is I love base cards, and to me, one in a mag touch is just as pretty as one that's been graded. So.
So I do like a lot of the good points there, and like you're saying, taking those back pages is the point. Buy 10, sell 10s, buy 9s. But no, I absolutely can't disagree with the negativity and the positivity, especially after the message I got this week. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. Random trade packages of, hey, Mike Summer, you're going to hook me up with a bunch of 87 tops, or 87 clear, 87 Donruss to complete my birth year set runs. You can have these for your shop. You have a better usage for them than I do. I'm not saying that having 73 to 77 tops cards is horrible, but they're just sitting around. I have no use for them.
I think there are a lot of things that negativity kind of comes with just what it is, right? I mean, with social media, we're predisposed to bitch before we're. I mean, how many times have you went to a manager at a restaurant and said, "Hey, good service"? I've done it a couple of times, and they're always like, "Hey, what happened? What's wrong?" And it's like, that's how they're built in, right? As a manager, they're going to see 99 complaints before they see one compliment, and I think that's just a reflection of society as a whole. And right now, the state of the hobby, we're just negative because there's a lot to complain about, and maybe that's just our passion bleeding through. I think the one thing we can all agree that if we could wave a magic wand and take it away tomorrow is scamming. People that have nefarious intent to willfully steal from others, whether it's through eBay or whether it's through Facebook, and hey, send me friends and family, and then I'm going to block you as soon as you send me the money. There's no place in that. We all don't like flippers. We don't like this. We don't like that. Okay, yeah, you're right. You're wrong. It doesn't really matter. Some of it doesn't bother us as much as it bothers others. But there's no place for scamming, whether it's trimming cards, not sending, your half of a trade, just downright theft. It's what it is. Whether it's a misdemeanor or a federal offense is irrelevant. It's just not the right thing to do. A lady gives you back a 5 in cash. Hey, that's not Merry Christmas to you, man. Go that could be her job. Do the right thing. Go back and give her money back and say I got the wrong change. I don't get that. And I think we can all agree that there's just no place for that. And what's supposed to be a hobby is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I mean, I think we'd all like that. I agree with Steph on the positivity stuff. My thing would be is appreciate the base cards. Like Ben said earlier, you watch these guys blowing through blasters in minutes. Where's the hit? Okay, there's no trash. Oh, the hit's trash too. It's I understand. Okay, everybody's motivation is a little bit different, but appreciate what's actually else is in there too, because a lot of times, I've bought I end up with stuff from the card shop, or people give me stuff, and you're going through and go, man, there's a lot of awesome cards in here that they're just giving away because they didn't hit the right autograph or the right parallel, the right mem, and it's you're missing the point. I understand. Yeah, it's a lot of people. It could be all about the money, and there's different ways to collect, and I'm fine with that. But again, it's you're missing the other stuff that's in there. That's just looking at your, it frustrates me, and it's I can't understand that mentality.
Well, and especially when there are other products for people like that, Topps triple threats. You don't want base cards? Perfect product for you.
Or just go buy the card.
It has is the relics or whatnot. And, to that, this costs, wrong one. This costs less than a blaster. It's a card, and it's signed, and it's numbered to 50. That's my blaster for last week. This cost a couple of 2 or 3 blasters, but it's gorgeous. And I didn't have to do it at the time. I wouldn't have broke 2005 playoff absolute memorabilia. But now I have it for the collection.
Real quick, I think that on this same topic, I think one thing I would change is spending more time focusing on what we actually like. We spend so speaking specifically of like people on social media, we spend so much time on social media, seeing other people chase down blasters at the store, ripping stuff, doing box breaks, seeing all the great stuff that comes out, or just kind of shuffling through things. But we spend so much time and effort on that stuff and not really looking in the mirror and saying, what is it that I actually appreciate here? Why am I in this hobby? If I'm here just to watch it, that's cool. Let's call it what it is, But, FOMO takes over. You stop appreciating everything. It's like you really need to enjoy what you're doing or just step aside.
There has to be a reevaluation period. And that's kind of where, when I got back into this, it was kind of like touch everything. And it's reevaluate every year or so. You reevaluate where you are and what you're doing. And, you came and dropped off a ton of Giants cards recently to me, which I finally got through, and I went through and organized by the sets and pulled the cards I needed for the Giants team sets I'm working on for all the different years. And I was checking off on my little spreadsheet, on my Excel spreadsheet on my computer the other night, and I was up and didn't realize it. I did my shipping for the night. Usually I start around 8 o'clock and do my shipping, get all that out of the way. I started doing that. The next thing I know, I've watched almost a full season of Breaking Bad. It's now 2:30 in the morning, and I have to be up at like 7 to help with the kids. And I'm like, I had so much fun, and I'm just looking at like 97 Leaf, 89 score, and I'm just like mesmerized, like, oh man, I've not seen this card before. And just that whole thing, and like, oh man, I needed that Rob Nin card. Oh, Ken Overfeckle, yeah, man. Like, so excited just because it was stuff I like. It was a weird one-off card, right? It's a 2-cent card, but the pleasure of knocking it off the checklist and completing like that team set or whatever, I had so much fun doing. After the show tonight, I got this giant stack of Royals that I'm going to need to go through and organize and start working on, and I'm pumped to do that. And so that's the stuff. It's like, go back and find what's fun and collect, like we've said, collect what you like. The other question we asked was if you could, like Ben said, wave a magic wand and eliminate one thing from the hobby, what it would be. People said sneakerheads, third-party gaming, flippers. Watch the Breaks said anonymity. The market manipulation is vast. None of the big companies talk about it because they all profit from it, and people fall blind without knowing their sources' motivations. That's why I love the community. We may disagree at times, but at least you know me and I know you. At those back pages said distributors. Cracking Wax said negativity. We had people say Cardi C Sports said lack of innovation, unwillingness to welcome and embrace new ideas. At Cheap Front Breaks came out and said late checklists. So a lot of people responded back. There's some good things in there. I think, again, we talked about negativity. Please go away.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What did our buddy Dan Serbia say?
He said you.
That's right.
And hands down, as a hobby, we took a vote, and we're going to let you know that tonight was your last night in the hobby. So, goodbye.
That was by far the best troll answer of all time.
But you know what I'm saying? It's like a lot of us feel like the same way. I just think that, we said earlier, collecting versus accumulating. Ben said that earlier in the show. I think that's very poignant. Being involved in this hobby, there's a bunch of different ways you could go. But I think the true collector is disappearing vastly, and now we're more into this the gambling quick flip aspect of, and then who's done it for me lately, not caring long. It's like, we're on to somebody, and the next week we don't care, or 6 months from now we don't care. Like we're going to care about LaMelo and Anthony Edwards next year, and kind of forget about Zion and Ja. Those guys kind of go away. I mean, Luka this year had some love.
Well, we think we're going to forget about them.
No, yeah, we think, but you know what I'm saying? Like Trae Young, where did all the Trae Young lovers go? Like, and the guys that were after Jaren Jackson and Ayton, all that. Those guys just kind of like, okay, we're moving on to these next guys, and so like Vlad Guerrero Jr. this year, Pete Alonso, those were the top two last year, and Tatis wasn't a distant third, but he was a third to those guys. And now all of a sudden it's now Tatis, right? And given some, he's a good player, But to me, it's this bipolar we have with the hot guy, and I think people get too caught up in having the latest and greatest guy or version of, and they miss out on the bigger picture of it. So I don't know.
I'd love to take away, I kind of like Eric's answer again. The distributors, just to get access to the product, but then we'd see what the Topps Online and the reverse snake, double foil, parallel auctions, Dutch auctions up on the websites. But more so than that, I want to see the league exclusivity disappear. I want to see Upper Deck Baseball again. I want to see Topps Football. I want to see Topps Panini, whoever hockey. Not that Upper Deck isn't doing a great job with it, but M&M's pushes, Snickers pushes, the Canadian off-brand of, if we're cracking out here, Smarties. Push some innovation, make the sets look nicer, and it's not just a retread of the previous set.
Yeah. No, and we've talked about that before. If they could trade 5 for 5, and we even asked Topps, and it's never going to happen because they don't like each other, and it's just not going to ever work. But it's a shame. Anyway, I think the thing is that we can try to do our best is be hobby ambassadors and help new people and help educate. I think that's what we try to do on this show is, hey, we're just a bunch of collectors, and we have collectors on this show. And we're not doing this to become rich or famous. We're doing this because we like it, and we want to take our knowledge and what we've learned and our mistakes and share them with people and say, hey, listen, this is going on out here. There's not a lot of people that knew about the card trimming scandal, which we've all forgotten about because we've all moved on. The show bidding stuff, we talked to, that is legitimately going on. And I think there's some other shady deals going on where people are using cards to move money and not so legal ways, so there's just a lot. And the thing is I like to do this for fun. It's relaxing. There was a news report here on the local TV where it was talking about, card collecting and how it's coming back. And a lot of people are using it as a getaway from everything else that's kind of been going on and how it's been therapeutic. And we've talked about that on this show for since as long as we've been on. And that to me is the best part about it. Ben spending the time with his son and he's got a buddy in the house and he's got a best friend now he's collecting with and sharing those experiences. And then I hope one day that my son and I are there. I buy stuff and set it aside for him. And then I'm going to leave it up to him when he's old enough to decide what he wants to do with it. If he's not interested, then that's fine. I'm going to be interested in whatever he's doing. But he does have a little box of 200 box of common cards that I've had in here, and he carries them around. He goes, Rob, these cards. And he shakes them, and they're all bent to hell. But he likes to play with them, and he's 2.5, and he's having a good time with it. And he knows it's something that I like to do, and he tries to share it with me, and that's awesome. So, I know, and the other Ben Wilson, I know, your kids like the relics, and Bentley likes to feel them and see them, and which is awesome. Like that to me is super cool because what else is the kid like? Yeah, I want to touch it. Like,
dude, when I get them in the house and it's like, oh man, this is a 6-piece bat relic. The first thing you do is you look at your finger and go,
yep,
touching it. It's like,
I haven't had Cheetos today. I'm good.
Yeah, it's like, honey, can you feed me these nacho cheese Doritos? I just got a new Ricky Henderson 9-piece in.
Yeah. And guys, if the thing, anybody out there, if you're in this hobby and it stresses you out, and it's taxing to you, and then this is not a hobby. Is supposed to be something that you have fun and it takes you away from your everyday life, and to me, like, then that's where you need to find something else, right? Like, because that's not fun. But you need to take a time out and look back.
No, time out. Can we still bitch about checklists though?
Yeah, we always bitch about checklists. Okay. No, we're fine there. But what I'm saying is that like if you're like stressed out, like because you've been to 20 Walmarts and you've not found anything, or you have a bad boxes, and then it's like, okay, then do it differently. Today at the shop, there was a guy and his son in there, and the kid had like $100 to spend, right? And I know he was going around, they were adding stuff up, and his son, he told his son, you can buy a box for $100, which there is very few for $100 at this point in time. I mean, there were some good deals he could have had, but mostly baseball. But he was a football and basketball kid. Like, that's what he liked to collect. So he went through and was buying singles, and that's what they've been doing over the last 6 months, was buying singles, because you're guaranteed to get what you want.
Every
now
time.
you might not get as much of it, but you're going to get everything that you want. Or you're what you're going to get. So if you want Marvin Bagley, right? Then you could buy the Marvin Bagley cards and be and happier. If you want the Tua cards, you can go and buy the Tua card. Now you might not get 10 of them or get the numbered out of 1 or 10, but you have some of the guy you want, and that's just kind of, I think that's a really good way to think about it. And I think a lot of us have kind of felt that way lately. And I love dollar boxes and quarter boxes. So.
There is a great quote from The Office, if you've ever seen the show, where there's a lot of beauty in ordinary things. And I think sometimes we need to take a step back and realize that, yes, it's a hobby. And sometimes happiness is, I'm getting one sometime this week, a bunch of 1989 Bowman Maguires. It's going to take me back to when I was 10 years old. I literally just pulled the trigger just now, spent $5 while we were on the show to get 17 1986 Eric Davises. 2 pages full, right?
That's a good looking card.
It's the card that got me in the hobby, $5. It's my Starbucks money from tomorrow. It's one of those things, sometimes ordinary things. Sometimes best thing you're going to do tomorrow, Tim, is see Robbie, junking around a card that's bent to shit. But you know what?
A Dick Motta at 91 Fleer.
eBay 101.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, hey, sometimes we need to remember that there's beauty in ordinary things.
And that's what you say every day in the mirror.
I do. I do, absolutely.
And all your A's collection.
I love, somebody loves me, Stuart Smalley.
Absolutely. I do that every day. In fact, I got multiple mirrors, so it looks like more than one person is saying it towards me.
I miss the old SNL.
We almost made it an hour, 2 hours without Ben making the Office reference.
Or a West Wing reference, right?
That's a little too close to next week. I figure,
By the way, did you watch the the one on HBO?
I've not seen it. It's now available for free to people that don't have HBO Max. So, but there's also I forget who put the publication out right now. I'd probably get it at the grocery store. That's where I got mine. It's a whole magazine on the West Wing. It's like that thick, $15. But
well, guys, as we head out tonight, next week we're gonna have Ken Kinsley at Bane's B Card blog on as a guest host, continuing amazing guests.
Pronounce.
What?
Beans.
Like we've had Beans B Card blog.
You said Beans.
We've had icons on. I mean, look, we've got the cardboard icons. We're gonna have Bean.
Cardboard icons.
We had Dub Mentality. I mean, man, we've had like some big names.
I'm on every week.
The most mediocre group of friends we could have.
Remember, we're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific.
10 Central.
On YouTube, Periscope, Facebook. Make sure you subscribe and review our show on all platforms. You can always follow Ben Aguirre at Cardboard Icons and check out his, he's got a blog. He's in Beckett. He's all over the place. He's a legend. He's a Mount Rushmore collector. Follow us at About the Cards. You can always follow our Ben, the lesser of the Bens, at our trading cards. Always follow Steph at Junk Wax Twins, and you can follow me at Big Chef 79. Please share your hobby stories, great polls, and send your questions our way. We'll see you next week, and keep collecting.